Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome to the daily forecast for Tuesday, August 6th, 2024. It is the day of the Warrior King. It is Tears Day, Mars Day, the 16th of Leo, the 2nd of Hazel, the 16th of Salmon, and the 12th of Hayanir, which is haymaking month. Let's look closely at our astrology. The sun is in Leo, fixed fire, which represents achievement. The moon is first quarter Virgo, mutable earth, which represents details. Mercury is retrograding in Virgo, mutable earth, which signifies deep reflection. Venus is in Virgo, mutable earth, which represents perfectionism. Mars is in Gemini, mutable air, which means to be pugnacious. Jupiter is in Gemini, mutable air, which represents questing. Saturn is retrograding in Pisces, mutable water, which means to redefine dreams. Uranus is in Taurus, fixed earth, which represents renovation. Neptune is retrograding in Pisces, mutable water, which signifies a spiritual awakening. And Pluto is retrograding in Aquarius, fixed air, which means we need to examine our intentions. So, on the topic of retrogrades, of which we currently have 5, for Mercury, it is reevaluate communication patterns. That's something we could productively focus upon. For Saturn, it's all about reclaiming your authority. And Neptune, reclaim faith, joy, magic, and your imagination. For Pluto, it's reclaim your ability to regenerate. And for Chiron, it is restoring the heroic spirit. Now, in the moon phase, we are in the waxing crescent phase, which means that we need to be busy brainstorming. We've had wonderful ideas at the new moon, so now it's time to brainstorm how we bring those about. For the Virgo moon, do, focus, organize, edit, very common Virgo words right there. The don'ts are going on job interviews. Try not to schedule them when there's a Virgo moon. Avoiding critical people if possible, and avoiding perfectionism, especially inward perfectionism, whether you have unrealistically ideas of what you think you should be doing and how you think you should be, or if you're having those unrealistic expectations of others. Try to rein that particular kind of crazy in. So it's the day of Mars, and Mars is still feeling quite feisty, and we have the Virgo moon that is craving calm, order, smooth operations. Expect these energies to get into a bit of a tussle. It's really not beyond the realm. Now, as for coping strategies, allow yourself an outlet where you can cut loose if feasible and use that as a reward for attending to any dreary details. If you know that you have a more kind of nervous, impatient, restless kind of energy and that you're going to have a place to put it, a place to focus it on, I think that makes it a lot easier to buckle down and show discipline and say, I'm going to deal with these things, however dull, but I'm just going to get through them because I'm going to be rewarded with this later. So hopefully that will be helpful. Next up, the tarot card of the day. It is Strength. It is numbered to the number 8, which represents new beginnings, and it is part of the major arcana. And so with the major arcana or major arcana cards, however you pronounce it, I hear it so often both ways. I listen to so many different American and British commentators. My own sense of pronunciation is getting very confused. But whichever you prefer, the main thing is that whenever you are pulling these majors, it is signifying that this is a kind of energy that's going to have more overarching and more long-reaching and long-lasting effects. So it is worth paying attention to. Its keywords are acceptance, embracing, accommodating, including, caregiving, persistence, patience, and surrender. Now, demonstrations of strength are often linked with acts of service, whether it is a ruler who is constantly acting in service to their people, whether through and it just did that weird blip thing. So whether they are doing service through diplomacy or military campaigns, or they're doing something practical to attend to the needs of the people, that is a show of strength. And so similarly for us at the individual level, looking for opportunities to show our strength by endurance through looking at what needs to be done and just getting it taken care of, even if it's not technically our job. Sometimes that doesn't really matter. Sometimes it needs someone to take care of the thing. And sometimes the person taking care of the thing is us, and that's okay. It is an opportunity to show our character and also to to make people feel a bit more secure. So many people have been driven into a state of hysterical fear for so long that anyone who's able to create an atmosphere of calm for them, not only is that doing service to the individual, it is allowing that person to recover from that trauma. And I don't use that word lightly because I truly believe that we have seen mass trauma over the past couple of years. And I'm sorry, the mental health professionals all over the globe, they are not equipped to deal with this. Even the ones who haven't bought into weird ideologies that do a lot more harm than good. Even if once you discount those, I mean, there's just uh, not enough of them. The profession itself is not up to it. Their state of knowledge is really not up to it. We are going to have to learn to look after each other as well as ourselves. So that's just something to kind of chew on today. Today's Celtic Triad reads, 3 things never to bring to one who has been your host: harm, contention, and ill repute. Which, you would think that all of this goes without saying, but some people, I mean, you think they were raised by wolves of a particularly ferocious variety. So here we are having to make things explicit. So the first thing was harm. Obviously, harming the person who showed you hospitality is a betrayal of the most unforgivable kind. And then contention, creating disputes, especially silly disputes, is really poor repayment for someone showing you hospitality, not to be done. And then ill repute, damage to reputations are not easily restored. So if someone is a guest in someone else's house and they just do something that's disgraceful or scandalous, um, that can actually be seen by the outside world as something that is actually a reproach also upon the host, because didn't they know that person's character? Why did they have that person in their house? It raises questions about them, and no amount of "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, I should have done better" is going to be really going to be able to cut it. It's not going to repair the damage. So these are reminders. And again, I don't think that anyone who watches this channel really is the sort of person who would do this. However, I think it is good for us just to be aware that our ancestors had something to say on this topic, and also to encourage us to be very judicious about who we choose to associate with. Today's magical correspondences have the theme of dignity. The color is black, the plant is the clove, the animal is the cat, and the crystal is obsidian. Obsidian, rather. Ugh, more tea, more tea. Okay, I'm ready. But dignity is the practice of conducting oneself in a manner that is worthy of honor and respect. And I think we as pagans and we as witches and wizards, we really should be not just claiming our dignity, but acting in a manner that makes our dignity, our sense of dignity, manifest in our behavior. The outside world can easily observe it. For so long, we have either been derided as jokes or fantasists, escapists who don't have a good grip on reality, or we have been hated. People who see us as a genuine threat to the Western world, as opposed to resurrecting the beliefs that were the foundation of the Western world. But no matter how you slice it, there's no question that all of us have had to deal with getting a bit of attitude from people who are outside of the community. Not fun. And I'm not saying that we're going to be able to fix people, to make them think of us better, but we can behave in a manner that any reasonable person would observe and say, okay, you shouldn't be disrespecting that person. It doesn't matter if you disagree with their beliefs, or if you have issues with their beliefs, or if you think their beliefs are silly. The fact of the matter is they are exhibiting good conduct. And that has to be worth something. That has to mean something. And for many people, I'm happy to say they are starting to realize that. So by us using this opportunity that's come to us in our current climate, and by assuming our dignity and gradually raising the tone for how we conduct ourselves in public, I think that could be of great service to the pagans now living and for future generations of pagans. Now for today's practice. Okay, now I'll go on with the practice now that the video glitches over. What deity do you personally most associate with Tuesdays, and how do you relate to that deity? Study the Hermetic principle of vibration. Look into the Witch's Pyramid, specifically the South Wall. Make a list of goals you want to accomplish this month. And then, if you're looking for a new chant or you want to try something different, try the Dune Litany Against Fear. Yes, I know it's a book of fiction. It doesn't alter the fact that that the litany against fear is actually something that's pretty dang useful. You put some energy into that, and it calms down the mind. Uh, there's all sorts of uh, little posters and memes of it on Pinterest, so that's the first place to look. Or you could just Google the words. But it starts out with I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. And that has always really struck me because it's very true. So, even though it's part of a fictional book, that does not mean we cannot transform it to be useful to us in our spiritual practice, because the value of the words is what it is. It doesn't matter what the original intention of them was. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter that it comes from fiction. It's a good story. And, that litany against fear is something that is actually very bracing for the mind. So, especially if you are experiencing anxiety at this time, and if you are, I don't blame you. No one in their right mind blames you. This is something that you can utilize in order to get your mind to quiet down, get your heart to quiet down a little bit to where you are able to think, evaluate, and decide on beneficial courses of action. Now, for our journaling prompt, do you feel like you are in charge of your life? And I want to draw attention to of this quote to you. Sovereignty is about fully coming into ourselves, into power over of having dominion over the self. So, are you in charge of your life? Are you in charge of you? This is particularly significant if for anyone who practices the craft. If you are not in charge of you, then that is a very dangerous situation for anyone who comes into contact with you, because without you being able to exercise self-control, which is absolutely a part of sovereignty, self-sovereignty and self-control, they go hand in hand. If you have not mastered yourself and you have knowledge and skills to wield the creative forces of the universe, you can be a force for terrible harm. So, lots of food for thought there. But that is what I have for everyone today. I hope you have a wonderful Tuesday. I hope things don't get too spicy for you. If you would like to follow me on the rest of my social media, I can be found at Blackbird's Brew on X and the Blackbird Grimoire on YouTube and Rumble. And of course, I hang out now at the Oak and Elder Witchery. If you would care to join the community, there's a link for that in the description. But that will do it for now, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.